Alright, this video is going to be on how to put an Ematch into your cake so you can get instant ignition. You can also use this, you're going to use it with a firing system so you can step back and enjoy your show. So what I'm going to go over today is how to use your poke that we just made to insert an Ematch into the cake. I'm going to show you how to strip the cake away so you can expose the important parts to be able to do this technique, and then I'm going to show you how to fuse two cakes together so you can electronically fire the first one. It'll burn through all the tubes, and then when it gets to the last one, it'll automatically light the next cake in line. So I've already started working on this one. I'm going to put it aside and show you how to prepare your cake like this one. First of all, I like to take the tops off of my fireworks. It helps with cleanup and also allows you to check in here, see which way your fuse is running, and inspect the tubes, make sure nothing's blocking them. So after we take the top off and put it away, we're going to expose our fuse. The fuse actually comes out here, but once you cut back a little bit, you can see it actually comes all the way down here. So the way these fuses are, a lot of times they are taped up higher. You have this little piece exposed, and then when you light it, it'll burn in and actually come down the tube all the way down here. So that's a very important step. You don't want to poke into where the fuse is coming out on the packaging, because if you do that, you're going to be too high and poke into the actual shell. So if you don't know, down at the bottom there's a plug. Then you have your lift charge, which is going to be where your fuse comes in, and then once the fuse comes in and lights the lift charge to shoot the shell out, it's also going to burn out here, and you're going to see it go to the next tube. So what we want to do is expose where that fuse comes in to make sure we're actually putting our Ematch into the lift charge. You don't want to poke it up here where the fuse comes out of the tube, because it's going to be too high, and it's actually going to probably detonate your shell inside the tube. So we're going to strip that corner away. And expose where the fuse actually goes into the tube, into the lift charge. Once we do that, we're going to take our poke. You want to make sure it's non-sparking. So we just made a video about how to make these very cheap and easy. It's a brass poke, so it doesn't spark when you push into the lift charge. You don't want to set your lift charge off on accident while you're working on your fireworks. So we're going to take our poke, come right next to the fuse, push in, and you're going to want to hear that crunch. That's the black powder, the lift charge. So that's how you know you made it into the lift charge. We're going to pull it out, and what I like to do is leave this regular fuse in, because if you have a malfunction with your Ematch, you still have the option to walk over and hand light it. So you know, some people take those out. I prefer to leave them in. What we're going to do is take our Ematch with the shroud on. You don't want to pull this shroud back, because that's a flammable tip on there. So if you pull the shroud back and force it into the black powder, you could potentially ignite that Ematch, and that's gonna again set your firework off while you're working on it. It's very unsafe. You don't want to do that. So we're always going to leave the shroud pulled up to cover the Ematch, and then we're going to poke it right into the hole that we just made. Push it down in there. and it's going to look just like that. What I like to use to secure that and any fuse that I'm connecting together, some people use zip ties. One of the downfalls of that is that if you pull the zip tie too tight together, you can actually put the flame out instead of passing the flame along to the next fuse. So I like to use this aluminum duct tape. I get a big roll of it, and it's got a paper backing on it, so it's nice. It doesn't, if it gets hot in your firework supplies, it doesn't start sticking to itself or anything like that. So that's my preferred method of connecting fireworks. So what I'm going to do is lift this wire up for the E-match, and I usually try to leave this this fuse down out of the way, and I'm going to cover that up with some tape just to make sure that it's nice and strong in there. It's not going to get pulled out if somebody accidentally trips over it or anything like that. Then we're going to just take this extra wire, fold it up, sit in the tube, and then just like that, it's out of the way. You're ready to connect this to your firing module and fire that single cake. What we're going to do, what I like to do to all of my fireworks, is actually run one E-match to the start of the row of cakes, and then I'll run another piece of fuse out of the last tube, and that goes to the fuse on the first tube of the next cake. So that's what I was saying earlier. When the E-match is going to light your first tube, it's going to shoot through your cake, and then when it gets to the last tube, it's going to automatically light the fuse coming out the back, which is going to be connected to the fuse of the first cake, or the cake behind it, the next cake, and then it's going to automatically ignite that one. So I'm going to show you how to go about that right now. Again, we're going to take our razor blade, our razor knife. We're going to start by exposing this last tube. And again, all we did was look down in here. We have our first tube, and we checked to see that our fuse was coming across and then back and then across. So this is going to be our last tube. So we're going to start by exposing this last tube. Basically, you don't have to make this super pretty. What I like to do is clear any of this stuff out that's in the way, because what we're looking for is, you can even come back a little bit on this side if you need to. What we're looking for is where this fuse down in here is coming out from this tube into this tube, and what we see is the fuse is right here. So again, what you want to do is make sure you come somewhere even with that fuse that's coming in, and make sure you poke into the lift charge. And again, we hear a good crunch, so that tells us that we are in fact into our lift charge, which is a good sign. We're going to take our piece of fuse. This is a fast fuse. I usually like to use a little bit faster fuse coming out the back side of these, so that way you don't have a big delay in between your cakes. I'm going to put our fuse in there, secure that with another piece of tape. and that's our finished product. So we have the factory safety fuse coming in the front so that we can light that if the ematch fails. We have our ematch poked into the lift charge on the first tube. We're going to run that over to our firing system, and then we're going to have it burn through, shoot all the tubes, and then we have our fuse on the back side coming out that we're going to connect to the fuse on the next cake. So the way we're going to do that is take the cake, and again this one would also have another fuse coming out the back, so you can use one Q on your firing system to light the first cake in your show, and then have that light the next cakes, and you don't have to worry about timing issues with one cake going to the next. If you use a single fuse for your whole show, sometimes you can be the fuse can be too long or too short, and it can end up having a delay or shooting stuff off too soon. So I prefer this method because it allows the cake to shoot all the way through, and then it automatically lights the next cake, so you don't have a big gap in between. So again, we're going to take a piece of tape here. I'm actually going to throw another